My name's Anna Morgan. I'm a business solutions team lead with Legend, which is part of Roth Staffing. So glad to have you guys. And John and I have been networking together for over 2 years. We met through a closed networking group. And every time I've heard him speak or do his little 1 minute, I always am inspired. And he's just been a great leader in our community. He gets people fired up about their passions, their whys, and just having more effective communication, purpose, and intent. And I'm excited that we can talk about this in a realm of professional environment, as it relates to HR professionals. But also, the great thing about his coaching is that, as he said, it can transpire into how we speak to our spouses or our children or anything like that. So we're super grateful to have you and looking forward to the content today. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Anna and Legend, and thank you all for coming today. I'm really excited to be here and to share some of my thoughts with you. And my goal for you in this experience is that you walk out of here with just a couple of nuggets to start to practice communicating in a completely different way. Because as Anna said, what you're going to learn today can improve how you speak with your boss, your employees, your coworkers, your spouse, your significant other, your kids, your parents, anybody. So this was my title, and so the whole point was, like, in our lives we typically have these what we feel are hard conversations to have with people. Sometimes it's speaking our own truth, setting a boundary, getting clear in the workplace on what's required so that we can get things happening in the workplace that we want to have happen. But it's all about having empowered employee-related conversations, or empowered conversations, period. This is our typical response when it comes to having a hard conversation. We automatically go into resistance mode. We're like, I don't even want to have this conversation. Maybe we're angry, maybe we are upset, maybe we are afraid that the conversation is going to anger or upset somebody else, and we're walking on eggshells. So this is our typical reaction to say, nope, I'm out of here. I'm going to avoid this conversation either completely or I'm going to put it off. And then we put it off for so long that the situation just continues to get worse, and we even have to have either a blow-up conversation to get any movement to take place, or the conversation we really want to have is now near impossible. So the perspective that you have of your communication is going to help you create the conditions for what it is that you're going into. What I've learned is that anytime I see something as a challenge or a problem, and I call it a problem, I experience more problem. I experience more problem energy. I experience more problem results. The instant I say, I've got a situation with my boss or a coworker or an employee, what's the opportunity here? What's the opportunity for me, for the organization, for the relationship? So start to shift how you even look at it from the very beginning, and that will start to change the results that you can get. So today, I'm going to take this hard conversation that really feels heavy and difficult to have sometimes and give you some power so that you can get it clear over your head and so that it starts to feel a lot lighter. It really comes down to effective communication, being able to listen as well as speak in a way that gets a desired result. Bart, we know, sometimes had problems with this, or should we say opportunities. The first time I did a performance review, I was 22 years old and an ROTC cadet at Brigham Young University. And I was a ROTC battalion commander, so I was kind of in charge of a bunch of other cadets. Because of my position, I had some responsibility that allowed me to to weigh in on the grades, the lab grades, for the ROTC cadet officers that worked underneath of me. And so I went to have the conversation with one of the guys. He was a friend. We'd been through ROTC for a few years. But he was expecting an A in the class. But when I looked at his performance, his attendance, how he showed up, key events that he missed, and some ways that he just really didn't demonstrate the qualities of leadership that were expected, when we were sitting down, I said, you know, Bob, I think I'm going to give you a B. I'm going to recommend a B for your grade. And he's like, John, you can't do that. I've got to nail my GPA. If I get a B in this class, this is going to have a big impact on my, perfection GPA that he was going for. He wanted to go to medical school. And I'm sitting there listening, and of course, I don't know how to do a performance review. I've never done one. And I'm going, oh man, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh man, what should I do? Should I lighten up? Should I give him the A anyway? But what would that feel like if I did? And so I took a deep breath and I said, no, I really just can't. I haven't seen real evidence that you deserve an A. And it wouldn't be fair to other cadet officers. It wouldn't be fair to the cadets. And I would be letting the organization down. And of course, he wasn't happy. We closed the session. He left. And I'm sitting down there in my office and the phone rang. And it's one of the Army officers, the instructors. Hyatt, get up here. I need to see you for a minute. I had no clue what he wanted to see me about. So I go up there and I knock on the door. Hey, Cadet Hyatt reporting, sir. Hyatt, have a seat. I'm like, what's he going to say? He goes, I just want you to know that I overheard your conversation with the other cadet. And I heard what you said. And I just want to tell you that I respect and stand by your decision. And I was like, wow, okay. He goes, it's hard to have these kind of conversations, but the more clear you are in what you expect, the more empowered you are to have that conversation. And that's evidence of good leadership. So I was like, whew, okay, I got over that. But I'll never forget that as making a mark in my memory of how difficult these conversations can feel and how challenging they can be. There can be politics playing out in the background. There can be personal relationships playing out in the background and put all sorts of clouds around these conversations. The same thing is true. So I learned a lot from that experience. And I learned that the number one key, and if there's 3 words that I want you to take out of today's lesson, is show up available. Everybody say it. Show up available. Say it.
Show up available.
One more time. Show up available. We put a lot of expectation on other people to be responsible for a lot of things, but oftentimes we aren't showing up available to get the results that we want. We're not thinking consistently with what we want. Our feelings are out of sync with the words that we're saying. Our actions aren't consistent and aligned with the words and the things we want to have happen. So in this important engagement, when you're sitting there with another employee or another relationship, you're going, how am I showing up? Where's my attention? Am I listening? When I'm speaking, am I speaking clearly? And am I speaking freely? What's going on in the heart-to-heart connection as well as the mouth-to-ear connection? So take those words, show up available, and we're going to talk more about those words as we go. This is your world, and I have a huge amount of respect for what you all do as professionals, in the HR, staffing, and employment field, and the things that you do for your leadership and for your organizations. It is a tough job. You are at the point of the spear in dealing with people because everything comes down to people, no matter what product or service is being offered. There's a body involved with it. And there's a ton of bodies behind that body and you guys are at the point of the spear in doing that. So the key question is when you think about your organization, so much what is happening, that's part of it. But what do you want to create? What do you want to influence? What values and qualities do you want demonstrated both in your leadership, in yourself, and in other employees? And this is an opportunity too, and I took the concept of performance reviews for this, but again, this can be applied to any conversation that we're having. What do you want that conversation to look like, feel like, and sound like? And do you know that going in? Are you clear on that going in? The more deeper you dive into what you want, the more clarity you're going to have about the results. And you're going to go, I want to create conditions for that. This is what an empowered conversation will feel like with this person. Oh, what do I need to say? How do I want to say it? What energy or tone do I want to use? How do I want it to be received? What am I open to hear back? So this is your opportunity to create your world. And we're dealing in the world of humans. I mean, how messy is that? We've all got our own messes going on. We've got our own perception, how we look at things, how we feel about things, our culture, our family tradition, our politics, our social circles, the family that we grew up in, where we went to school, our background, our emotions. All of those things are always spinning in the background. And sometimes it's a roll of the dice where we are in on any given day, never mind where somebody else is on any given day. And so you can either embrace the complexity and dive in to the mess and swim in it and feel okay, or you can resist it. Hey, I can never figure this out. I don't know what to do or what to say. I'm tired of dealing with it anymore. I can tell you, you get different results based on what you choose. So dive in. It's okay to be human. It's okay for other people to be human. It's what we're meant to be. And there's no perfection in this thing. Vince Lombardi said, we're going to pursue perfection, but we know we can't attain it. But if we chase perfection, we might catch excellence. So stop trying to be the perfect person in everything and simply attempt to achieve excellence in what you're doing. You all get the privilege of taking care of the interests of your organization, your leadership, your employees, but also yourself. At the end of the day, who does not want to go home and go, I had a good day today. I was clear in my communication today. I showed up available for creating results at work today. And I helped influence my leadership to make the right decisions. You all always have the ears and the eyes of your leadership. They look to you, they count on you for what's the HR policy, what's the requirement, what do these employees need to do, what do we need to do legally, what can't we do legally. And so you have a constant platform in front of your leadership every day to influence them and their thinking. Even if you don't think that you do. There's a lot of power there. What I've learned in the term of performance reviews, and even any communication in general, is that if any of these things are going on, if our communication is vague, if it's not taken seriously, if performance reviews are inflated, they lose meaning. By inflated, I mean everybody gets a 5. It doesn't matter how you perform. The leadership gives everybody a 5 because they're afraid to give somebody a 4 or even a 3 because, oh, well, what does it mean? Okay, does it mean I'm screwing up as a leader if I give somebody a 3? Oh, I don't want to take responsibility for that. If I give somebody a 5, I'm off the hook. Okay, and I don't have to bother with correcting or seeking their improvement. Is our reviews and communication old and dated? When was the last time they were updated? When was the last time we took some time and looked at the role that leaders play in communication? Do we rush through it? A lot of performance reviews are, yep, performance review time, okay, come and get it. Yep, all right, we knocked that out, next. And so there's no real time and attention taken. Again, there's a huge opportunity in a performance review. There's a huge opportunity when you get a chance to talk to someone to create something. And we can miss that opportunity like that, and then it's gone. And then later on down the road, we're going to pay a price for it. So if any of these things are going on, inconsistent, We are demonstrating, we are facilitating, we are complicit in disrespect. Disrespect for the organization, disrespect for the leadership, disrespect for the other person, and certainly disrespectful for ourselves. So, keep your eye out for these type of things that are going on in your communications and in your performance reviews. You all are at the point of the spear and there's an opportunity to fix things. Organizations are like people. We are always attracting. Two magnets, always attracting. Now, a lot of magnets, well, most magnets, opposites attract, but that's not the case with human beings. Did you know that? Opposites do not attract in human beings. Like attracts like. So however you are showing up, you in general are attracting people, experiences, opportunities, conversations, partners, companies, employees that vibrate and attract just like you do. Okay? So organizations are just like that too. There's an organizational culture about the energy. And there's a huge potential there for the organization to attract like-minded. But if I go back to the disrespect slide, if that's how things are showing up, what am I attracting? More disrespect, more inconsistency, less profit, less performance, less morale. And so I'm setting myself up for failure. So pay attention to what you're attracting. And when we're attracting, we're always creating conditions. And conditions lead to results. And so conditions are the presence or the absence of qualities. So, we all showed up here. Anna and her people said, you know what, let's create conditions for this event today. So they made sure the tables were out, they made sure the refreshments were there, the lights were on, everything was done. They had a speaker plan to come talk to you. They greeted you and smiled and shook your hand. All of that goes to creating conditions for results. Okay? And so each one of you is creating a condition right now because you're either focused or you're not. You're available or you're not. So you're creating conditions for your experience as it happens right now. In the corporate world, leadership, our job description, the employee, and the HR or staffing person plays a significant role in values. And we're going to talk about values because values are going to change the way you talk. Values are going to change the results that you get. Here are some performance-related values, qualities, or attributes. So these are conditions that I would want to set. So, if I'm in a relationship, if I'm a leader and I want my employees to perform at a certain level, I'm going to talk about these kind of values. Hey, I want the reports to be complete, precise, compliant, accurate, prompt, organized. I want my people to show up dependable, responsible, collaborative, communicative, active listener, creative. Each one of these can be specifically defined and measured. For example, how would you guys do accounting and a lot of you all do finance and accounting staffing. So pick one and tell me how you would measure it. Somebody, anybody, doesn't matter.
I mean, compliant for accounting and finance would be following generally accepted accounting principles and, carrying things through the process as they're intended.
Okay, great. So would it be accurate to say that compliance is a value? Do you value compliance in your field?
People who are compliant.
Yes. Yes. So because I value compliance, how would I expect that your performance to demonstrate compliance?
Well, there's checks and balances.
Okay.
Debits and credits. It has to balance. I'm not an accountant, but I think that's what.
Okay.
Well, making sure we're meeting regulations.
Making sure you're meeting regulations.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So is there a way to measure whether you meet regulations or not? Absolutely.
Checks and balances.
Absolutely. There's a lot of checks and balances. So if somebody falls short in demonstrating their availability for compliance, is that a problem? Would they be a fit for the organization if they continued to demonstrate disrespect for compliance? Or if they didn't value compliance? Absolutely. But see, now when I talk to it, I can say we really value compliance in this organization. Compliance is important because it keeps us out of trouble, but it also demonstrates respect for our client, for our customer, for the organization. So because we value compliance, our compliance scores have to be at a certain range. I'm just throwing that out there because I don't know how compliance scores are or whatever. Our compliance standards have to be at a certain level. And so I can measure that, I can talk to that, and I've landed on values. I value compliance. Okay? I value accuracy. Hey, if you keep submitting reports and they keep being inaccurate, that's a problem. So let me tell you what accuracy looks like and feels like. What do you think accuracy looks like and feels like? Oh, okay. Well, this is the standard of accuracy that we really need demonstrated. Are you available to do that? Maybe. Okay, well, you'll have the opportunity to demonstrate whether you are or not. Okay, but by landing on values, everything I talk about goes to the value. And that makes me clear, confident. Now it's not emotional. It's not personal. It's based on values. Values want to be nested. And by nested, anybody seen these little Russian dolls that they all fit inside of each other? Okay? Well, the corporate values, corporate values want to make sure that the department values are nested in the corporate values. The section values are nested in the department and the corporate. The team's values are all nested with each other. And even at the employee level, we are engaged at the value level where my respect impacts my compliance, my accuracy, my performance, feeds into the values at every single level up above. So another question for your organization is are your values nested, or does everybody have their own values? Does everybody have their own different measurements? Are they inconsistent with how they measure performance and how they measure the values? So leaders get to define all these things. This is the role that leaders play. And again, you all get an opportunity to shape what leaders do because you're in front of them all the time. And so they're looking at vision, products, and all of these different things. Leadership gets to define things, and you get to enforce, but also influence. The job description is where is the first opportunity we have to lay down what's required in the job. For a relationship, what do you want in the relationship? When was the last time you had your significant other and said, what do our knowledge, skills, and abilities look like for our relationship? Oh, we don't have any. We just show up in whatever we feel like. That's what we do. Oh, well, maybe that explains the result that you're getting. Okay? But this is the first opportunity to define and to create what your expectations are. How do we want to show up in this relationship? How do we want the employee to show up? What do we expect them to bring to the table? And this is the first place we can talk about values. Like I said, this is a people thing, so it's all people energy. And all of us, not just the other person we're communicating with, but the employee or whoever it is, we all have these things going on. Motivation, inspirations, our concept of failures and successes. But there's a way to tap into this when you're communicating to leverage it to get a different result. Because if I can speak to this, your motivations, and what inspires you, and what your dream is, even if you've experienced this, even if your outlook on the past doesn't feel good, there's an opportunity to move you and to move the conversation and to move the different results to create something that's significant. And I'll talk more about this because there's really a golden nugget here to help you talk to people in a way that really gets them, their care level up, their engagement level up. What's the goal of the communication anyway? What are you trying to achieve? Praise and recognize? Something? Change something? Correct something? Get a deeper understanding? Oh, the purpose of my communication is really, I want to check on the process. Is the process sound? So I want to ask you about the process and the values in the process and how things are looking in the process. So one of the first things to do when you're thinking about your communication is, what's the goal? What's the result? Here's the thing. You never go wrong by focusing on, where is it? Deeper understanding and insight. Because we have our own bias playing out. We have our own stuff playing out that can get in the way of understanding what's going on with somebody else. And sometimes we just need to shut up and listen. Hey, boss, what do you really think? What's your biggest fear around this hire? What's your biggest, what's your biggest concern? What's going on in the background that if I know, I can help you understand and get clarity, and we can use it as an opportunity to get what you want done. Hey, child, what's going on? What do you think? Okay? I've got to show up available for that, though. Because if I have my own stuff going on, I'm not available for that conversation. I'm more concerned about what I want to say rather than what I want to hear. So I will shut people down that way. I will shut you down if I have my own agenda. Your own agenda doesn't matter. Your agenda doesn't matter to me. Mine does. And that makes me unavailable. But if I can go, what do I really want? At the end of the day, out of this conversation, what's my goal? What would benefit me? What would benefit the other person? What would benefit the whole? Think about the goals of your communication. And that also will give you valuable insight into what's going on. Employees either fit or they don't fit. Right? And I kind of narrowed it down a little bit. The fit, open, willing, and able. Hey, that's your optimal person. Somebody who's fully engaged. All right? Open, willing, and trainable. Somebody might not have all the skills they need, but there's a way to fix that. And as long as somebody's open and willing, we can say, oh, you just needed more skill. You just need more experience. We need to send you to take a course or to get certified or assign you to somebody who can mentor you through this. And boom, you get a great result. The unfit, we know what that looks like. And they're just not trainable for whatever reason. Is it okay to be open, willing, and untrainable? Yeah. I might not want to work with numbers. I'm open and willing to, but I just don't grasp mathematical concepts or financial, business accounting laws. It's just not a fit. I just have difficulty. Okay? I'm a good person, but I'm still not a fit for certain things. Who's not willing? I can be closed willing, and I can be perfectly comfortable with the skills that are required for my job. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it for you. Or I don't want to do it today. Okay? So the thing is these things apply to any relationship. A child can be open, willing, and able. Open and willing and trainable. Or closed and not willing, right? Okay. Now, it doesn't mean you throw in the hat and you give up when somebody's these things. But you just set your expectations about what's possible and where the opportunity is to create some movement. But you all are constantly measuring. I meant to bring my measuring tape. You're constantly measuring how people are showing up, how the performance is getting performed, what's happening, and you're going, there's a gap between where we are and what we want. And you're always measuring the gap. And when you're measuring the gap of performance, there's a mark where you want the performance to be and there's a mark where the performance is, and you're measuring that mark, and you're looking for accountability, and you're looking for the value underneath of that. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. But the value is what gets measured. Not just the numbers. Your ability to crunch numbers is great. Or maybe it's not so great. But your ability to crunch numbers and get a poor quality result means there's an underlying value there. You don't respect the business. You don't respect yourself. Maybe you have something going on at home that's keeping you from showing up. But whatever, there's something that's keeping you from demonstrating what needs to be demonstrated in order to get to where you are supposed to be. But the thing is that you've got to have values. So when you look at the values that you use for performance, when you look at the values that your leadership talks about on a daily basis, have they defined it? Does everybody know what respect looks like? Does everybody know what creative looks like? Does everybody know what accuracy and precision looks like? If they don't know what it's looked like, how can I tell you I expect precision, accuracy, and timeliness from you if I haven't defined those terms? In fact, I do you a disservice by not defining them, because I expect you to figure it out. But if we figure it out and I fall short, whose fault is it? Okay, is it my fault for not defining it, or is it your fault for not defining it and making it clear to me what the expectation is? Values give you something to stand firm on. Again, even if it's a personal relationship and you got to look at somebody and say, you know what, this isn't working out right now and there needs to be a change. Well, what don't you like about me? How come you don't like me? How come, what can I do to change? I promised to change again, and, I promised to work this out. And so when people go into that mode, you can be all over the map. Oh, okay, I'll stick around in the relationship for another week, month, or year. Okay? Or, yeah, okay, well, we won't enforce the standard this time. We'll enforce it next time. Okay? Or you're my best friend, and so I've got to overlook this to let you pass, to give you a pass. But see, when you've got values, you've got strength. I can't let this pass because I value respect. And it would demonstrate disrespect to you if I didn't hold you accountable to the performance. It would demonstrate disrespect to the team who comes up every day working hard if I don't enforce the standard. It would demonstrate disrespect to the customer, because the customer has an expectation when they purchase our service or product for me to overlook what's happening. So I understand what's going on, but because we value respect, I have to make this call. People can't argue with respect. They can't. Especially if you've done due diligence and made it clear what demonstrates respect. Respect. I can tie respect as a great value because it has such a broad application. But again, somebody's performance, even a leader's performance. A leader can be, by the how or when or what decision they're making, can be demonstrating disrespect for the organization, disrespect for the customer, disrespect for the employee. They just might not see it as that, but that's what's going on. So you can bring in the value and say, well, ma'am or sir, because this organization really values respect for the customer or respect for this process, this decision is important to make within a certain amount of time because it demonstrates respect, for everything when we do that. And I'm telling you, talking to people like that, they'll go, what? What did you just say? But it will land, and they'll get it. It has far-reaching effect when you start to use values in your communication. Yourself with that value, number one. And number two, you look for opportunities to help and influence other people and bring them in alignment with those values as well. There's a lot of keys to this in the workplace, and those keys start when you set the expectation in the very first interview about what values you want demonstrated in the performance. What values are you looking for in the job description? What values show up in their knowledge, skills, and abilities? What values show up as they respond to authority or as they exercise authority? Hey, you're coming in as a leader. Guess these are the values that we use to define leadership in our term.
John, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can I, for a raise of hands, how many people incorporate their values in their job descriptions? Okay, good. Because that's a lot of times, I tend, when we do post things, get better response when it's outside of just the technical skills for a job description, but when we meet with a client, we really get that feel for their culture and their personality and their values. You know, oftentimes that's a better draw. I mean, they have to be able to do A, B, C, D in accounting, but people are making moves right now because of values, because of leadership, and then compensation, work-life balance, and commute. But oftentimes when we're interviewing people, you know, what's prompting you to look for a job right now? Well, you know, lack of growth, I just don't feel like I'm a part of something. You know, there's poor communication between my direct manager and my vice president. So I love that you're talking about this because it just is so relevant. But I do think sometimes it's abstract, that it's hard to bring down into day-to-day communication around a performance improvement, or if someone's underperforming or needs coaching per se, that they're kind of stepping out of their defined job description and whatnot.
Yes, excellent point. Thank you. And so when that kind of conversation happens, when somebody says that they've experienced poor communication, let's just go with that, or they didn't feel appreciated or whatever at their other job, here's a great opportunity. Oh, it's interesting you say that. When you say you didn't feel appreciated, what do you really mean? What does appreciation look like, feel like, and sound like to you?
And those are also good interview questions or probing questions.
Yes.
Because, you know, I say this to people all the time. Well, you know, I want to work for a company that values their employees. Well, what does valuing you mean?
It's a buzzword.
You go home early on Friday? Does that mean you can work 45 hours instead of 65 hours?
Right.
You know? And so I make them elaborate on that. So when we go into companies and we evaluate where they are, you know, that is the difficult part of matching up candidates with clients. But it's all around, you know, digging deeper into those conversations. I think the first statement you made, as far as, you know, you don't feel appreciated, might set someone a little bit off in a way.
Sure.
But then saying, tell me more, you know.
Yes, because if I'm unavailable and somebody says, well, I didn't feel appreciated in my last job, I'm like, well, what makes you think you should be appreciated? Okay. What makes you so special? Oh, really? Oh, maybe you're just a whiny employee, you know. That would make me unavailable. But if my intent is I'm showing up available, I'm open to listening, and all of this is opportunity. It's not a challenge, it's not a problem. This is an opportunity, and somebody says, well, I just didn't feel appreciated. And even if they say it firmly, if you don't take it personal, if you're like, that's interesting, tell me more. What happened? What does appreciation look? How did you feel disrespected? What does respect and appreciation look like and feel like to you? Oh, did you know that we really value that in this company? And if we work to demonstrate, we work to on a daily basis, and we want you to bring respect and appreciation for others as well into the workplace. And this is how we measure that, by the timeliness of your reports, by the way you participate on the team, you know, by your promptness in showing work. All of these ways demonstrate. And so thank you for sharing that, because in the very first interview is where we can start to talk about values and see where they are where they are. When we document and we keep specific performance counseling, this is the biggest thing. How can you fire somebody that has not been adequately counseled on their performance and still feel good about it? I mean, unless it's a drastic, illegal, out of the ballpark behavior situation, okay? in the absence of consistent documentation, I have no integrity as a program to look you in the eye and say, I'm sorry, we're going to let you go. I just don't have it. And it puts us in a hard spot when we know that that's the case. For whatever reason, a leader failed. And because a leader failed, now we're letting somebody go who really could have performed differently had they been given an opportunity to do so. Decisive leadership, and then rehearsing. So y'all, I want you to practice talking this way. I want you to practice thinking this way. Every day, think about values. Every relationship, think about values. How you're showing up with the values, how you're demonstrating it, how you're seeing values demonstrated in others. This is what that statement that I just said. If we don't have integrity in our own process, we do a great disservice to what we're trying to do. You know, this is true with our significant others. If you are not showing up, if we are not showing up available for the relationship, if we haven't been clear on who we are, what we want, why it's important to us, the benefit of it, no integrity, but we expect them to read our minds, give us this, give us that, show up this way, because they're supposed to, damn it, we're married, or we're in a relationship, and they owe it to us. Okay? Not true, y'all. Not true. Do yourself a favor and give the gift to somebody else of clarity, of integrity, of authenticity, of consistency. And you'd be surprised at how people will deliver when you give them that. And if they don't, what does that tell you? Fit or not a fit? Not a fit. Thank you for telling me that you are unavailable to give me this. Okay? Because that gives me information now on which I can base the value of the overall relationship and whether it's a fit for me or not.
So the question came out, or in my mind, was, I think a lot of us, if we as managers show up available and we have this understanding focus on clarity, what if we have someone above us in a leadership position that we need to, is it purely by setting the example and showing up available and practicing these principles that our hope is that it will spread to senior leadership? Or do we just say, hey, Mr. Leadership, I think I need to set an appointment with John Hyatt? Do you have any suggestions around that?
Absolutely, and that's an excellent question. Here's what I've learned. We can either hope and expect other people to change, and we can even ask people to change. And sometimes they might do it. Other times, they don't, they can't, they won't, okay? Or sometimes the politics of the situation might suggest that it would be inappropriate for me to discuss this issue with somebody at a high leadership position because it's not my job, okay? Here's what I can guarantee happens, and this is a universal law. It's the law of nature. It's universal with the law of attraction. When you start to show up available, when you start to demonstrate clarity and self-respect, when you start to communicate in a different way, when you start to vibrate in a different way, things around you change. And they either change subconsciously or consciously. By setting the example, by simply saying, look, number one, I'm not out to change people. I'm going to demonstrate these qualities for myself and practice them on a daily basis. And by doing that, remember I used the word create conditions? By doing so, I'm creating conditions for other people to pick up on the same words, for other people to start to speak and act using values. For my leader to go, that's an interesting concept. I've never heard you explain it that way before. Oh, Anna, I've noticed you're getting different results, and I noticed that your energy and shift has changed. That's interesting. What are you learning? Okay. The single most important thing you can do to get anybody to change, a kid, your parents, your significant other, a friend, is for you to show up differently. And to release them of an expectation to have to be anything different. Because as long as you're fighting that, you're fighting an endless battle. And you're just attracting more negative energy. Because if I'm being disrespected, and all of a sudden I show up full of self-respect, I'm going to draw a boundary. And by me drawing a boundary, it says, I'm not available for disrespect. I'm available for respect. So if you want this to continue, you've got to bring respect in. Okay? But you don't have to. Because if you don't, that's okay too. Fit, unfit, remember? This relationship's not a fit. Okay? We're different people. We value different things. Is it okay for somebody else to value disrespect because they think it serves them? Absolutely, that's fine. But that's not a fit for me. And so the instant I start to change my behavior, I experienced this. I was coaching a parent the other day, a 17-year-old, only child, and there's some, he's a male, and there's energy going on between the dad and the son. And I'm like, let's stop focusing on trying to change the child. What would happen if you showed up differently with your energy, your expectation, your words, how you approach conversation? And he started to shift. And he told me, he says, John, I had a great experience. My kid goes, I asked him how his behavior served him. What result did he get? And I heard him say to his mom, Mom, what's up with Dad? Dad is changing. Okay? Guess who else is changing? The kid. Okay? But that's where we release expectation and release people on a time frame to change for us. No, when we start to change, we create a different vibration that attracts. And we either bring more of how we're vibrating, or if I'm vibrating with respect and somebody's coming in with disrespect, what does a magnet do that's faced? There's a repulsion. That person is not going to be, a person who is full of disrespect cannot hang around people who are full of respect. It's uncomfortable for them. And so they take their disrespect somewhere else. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
It does. And I think it is an abstract kind of idea in the corporate environment, because we expect our leaders to embody our values and not make mistakes and not be disrespectful. So when we encounter that, I think, having to set those personal boundaries and having that personal shift is important. It's a boundary, but I think it's something that is going to take practice. It's a, progress, not perfection type of situation.
Yeah.
Because I think, as you start implementing it into your communication style with your peers or coworkers or managers, there's going to be some evolution around it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And things are going to start to shift and move, and it's going to feel weird, and it's going to feel uncomfortable for a period of time, okay? Because you're literally rewiring your brain, okay? Because not only are you using new words, you're changing your beliefs and your thoughts around values. More importantly, around yourself, around other people, around what's going on. And you're unplugging from an old belief and you're plugging into a new belief, and it takes some time and space for that new belief to catch. But the more you practice, beliefs are just practice thoughts. The more you practice new thoughts that say, this feels good to me, this resonates with me, I'm going to be open and willing to try this because I want different results with what I want to get, and I'm getting clear about the values for myself, things will start to shift. And so will other people. Or they'll leave. They'll leave your experience. Or you'll leave. Oh, this isn't a fit for me anymore because, the bulk of my experience says there's too much disrespect here. So if I stay here, it's disrespectful for me to stay, disrespectful for myself to stay. It's also disrespect to the people that are disrespecting. Let them have their disrespect party. We don't have to play in people's sandboxes unless we want to. So, show up available, you've got to be mentally available. What are your thoughts, beliefs, your worldview, your perspective, your bias? Pay attention to that. Get curious about that. Ask yourself, am I mentally available for this way of communication? What thoughts and beliefs do I need to change? Am I emotionally available? Do I have a lot of pain, anger, sadness, grief, resentment, frustration, disappointment, perception of failure, mine or somebody else's, that gets in the way of how I want to show up? And can I move through those emotions and get clarity, peace, and resolution on those things so that I can be more present with myself? So that I can first be available to myself, and then I can be more available to other people. Thirdly, what kind of skills and tools do I need? Do I need to read a book? Do I need to take a course? Do I need to look for somebody to help me figure it out, or bring somebody into the organization that can present these topics and get a discussion going and get some new energy going? But this requires skills. And so long as you're trainable, open, willing, and trainable, you're going to do just fine. You're going to figure it out. Words are the single most powerful thing. We think in words. We act in words. We dream in words. Okay? Right now, your words are running 100 miles an hour through your head. Okay? When you change your words, you change your life. You change your perspective. You change your thoughts and beliefs. And the words you say to other people have energy and impact and power. So start to pay attention to what words that you use. You know, it's interesting that this situation exists. What do we want to create? And somebody goes, what? What do you mean, what do we want? Well, let's get specific on what does the solution look like and feel like while we're in the process of finding the exact specific solution. And people go, what? What are you talking about? By shifting your words, your energy will change. I had two brief experiences. I was working with a owner of a graphic design company, and they were having a problem with one of their junior graphic designers. She wasn't showing up. She wasn't getting the detail from the customer. She wasn't paying attention to a lot of things. And so I was like, well, what is this employee's goal? Well, eventually they want to be a senior graphic designer, and then they want to be a graphic design strategist. Okay? I said, well, that's really interesting. That's awesome. What if you use the framework of what she wants to be doing 2 or 3 years from now as the basis for describing the values of her performance now? In other words, it's interesting that, you know, I see you working on this project and this is unfolding. How do you think a senior graphic designer would show up in this situation? What values do you think a senior graphic designer would demonstrate? What would a strategist demonstrate? If you adopted some of those into your work now, what kind of different result would you expect to get? Are you open and willing to do that? Okay? See, by taking something that's important to you and helping you get clear around why it's important and the values and the conditions that it takes to achieve that, I can apply that right now to today. What would a senior, what would an expert, what would a manager do? How would a manager show up? How would a manager show up for meetings, late or on time? Okay? I had the experience, I was a military instructor, and one of the students wanted to be a battalion commander, and we were sitting in an evaluation thing, and a battalion commander is in charge of 400 to 600 people or so. And he was a major, and I said, so what do you want to do? I want to be a battalion commander. I said, oh, that's really interesting. I said, I was kind of brutal. I said, I don't believe you. He was kind of taken aback. I said, well, your performance during the class doesn't demonstrate the qualities of a battalion commander. Okay? What kind of standard does a battalion commander have for promptness, for completion of tasks, for participating, for setting an example? See what I'm saying? And by going down those things, was it personal? Was it me just telling him I didn't like what he was doing? No. I was taking the very qualities that he had somehow thought that he wanted to emulate and go, dude, you're not emulating these values. But if you want to, you can. But, oh, by the way, this is what we expect. And light went on, and the guy sitting with me that was doing the review, Hyatt, I can't believe you said that to him. And I was like, how else am I going to get this guy to move? Or at least to get it. Whether he moves or not is up to him. But if he really wants to be a battalion commander, he's got to understand how a battalion commander acts, thinks, performs. Okay? So it would have been disrespectful for me to have just glossed over that and to have done it a different way. So get into the heads. You've got to know people in order to do this. You've got to know what people come into work every day, where they want to be 2 or 3 or 4 years from now. Oh, hey, you did a great job on that report. That's exactly what a senior graphic designer would do. You are getting it. Any examples out there? Any specific, now that we've kind of set the stage on how this works, we have just a few minutes for a couple of specific examples. What situations are you guys in right now that we can kind of mastermind and think about a different way to say things, a different way to show up? Any current situations? Don't have to mention names. Don't even have to mention companies.
Well, I'll give an example.
Okay.
So just to piggyback off of your statement earlier, managing up is what I call it.
Yes.
And so when we're talking about collaboration and partnership, and you have those people who've been in a position for, let's say, 10 years, and you come in not necessarily as a novice in experience, but tenure to the organization. And so this person has previously done your job, because maybe it's a feel of a mom and pop. So getting them to a point where they understand that you've been brought in to perform a certain function, and you have to be allowed to do that job, and you want to perform in excellence, and to give them time back in their day so they can go on and do whatever their responsibilities or tasks are, and just again allow you to be that subject matter expert. So maybe there's an email communication that says that we have to have this position in this particular area. Say it's a field service. We have to have it. Why is it not posted? So looking at accountability, if you're coming from a more senior level, why is there not accountability for the hiring manager? Why is there the tone, in the email versus a phone call to get clarity? So looking at it in terms of, as you stated, values, explaining, not in an email, but picking up the phone and saying, I certainly understand the need. But once that conversation is over and you framed it in a certain way, then comes the next communication with all of the copies. So they've copied the world, right? And there's not an expectation. Nothing has been said in the way of, this is what's needed, this is the time frame. So getting those higher ups in the organization to understand that there is value in HR.
Sure.
And understanding that we work very heavily on metrics, and we understand that there is a need, but also looking at the collaboration and the partnership that's required in order for us to be successful. But just, I guess my point overall is, sometimes there's just, we're missing the human aspect. We're missing that human connection that you mentioned with the magnets, because they've worked in this negative space for such a long
Absolutely.
time. And bringing it full circle and saying, hey, again, I've been brought in to help you, to aid in getting this accomplished, looking at the company's missions and values.
Sure. Nope, that's a good question. So again, is this a challenge or an opportunity? Okay? If I go, wow, there's huge opportunity here. Secondly, in this role, it's sales. You have to sell. There's an opportunity for you to sell your value, right? I think as I understand the problem or the opportunity, you want to sell your value to your management so that you are empowered in order to make the changes and to get the work done. Is that the gist of it?
Yes.
Okay. So, how do you create value? How do you sell yourself on the value that you are for somebody else? You do that by asking them questions. So, for example, I love this job, and I love the opportunity it gives me to help the organization do this. If you could describe the perfect results that I could achieve for you, what does that look like? Okay? What is the best way that I can add value for you? So I'm not am I landing on anything there?
Oh, absolutely. But you've had that conversation. Let's just say you've had that conversation.
Then all you can do is continue to demonstrate it. Okay? Some people will get it, and that's the thing. Now, another thing too is allow people to be who they are. Right? Okay? Otherwise, you're in a constant battle of resistance, and every time you get an email from this person, you're going to feel this. So you might go, okay, that's okay. He's okay to do that. It does not bother me personally. I've even stopped taking it personally. In fact, it has nothing to do with you. One of the 4 agreements, don't ever take anything personal. Okay? Instead, seek every opportunity. Hey, are you available for lunch? I'd like to talk to you about this. Okay? Look for opportunities to simply establish your relationship with them in order to sell your value. And not from the standpoint of that they have to get it, because they don't. The requirement is for you to be empowered and peaceful with what you do every day. And you just, hey, my whole goal is what I want to make sure that I'm adding value to you and this process. And in my view, that value looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you agree with the 1, 2, 3, 4? Would you add or take away from the 1, 2, 3, 4? Or is there another thing? Because I want to blow your socks off with what I'm able to achieve. And this is the help I would want, I would like to receive from you to help me do that. These are the resources I would need. I would need your help, I would need this, I would need that in order to make this happen. Because I respect the organization. I respect you. I respect our customer. And I want this situation to be a certain way because of the values that it adds. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
John, I also wanted to add, kind of from what I know about sales, internally in a department, people buy from us because of what we do and the service we provide. But I've had people buy from me because we're mutual dog lovers, or we both love to travel to Hawaii, or, and so when we show up available, are we allowing ourselves to be vulnerable to get to know someone on a personal level, and whatever that means? Because obviously you want to know, you want them to know your objectives and the value you bring to the organization, but just like, I just think Sales 101, just being yourself and showing interest in them, their hobbies, their who they are versus their title.
Right.
I think is also something to keep in mind. What have I done for this month to nourish my personal relationships, enrich those relationships with my coworkers?
Absolutely.
And so that's just something else I came to think about around the.
Yes.
One other thing that I wanted to add too, I think there's a lot of value in just consistency, right? And so, I think I've been in your shoes before, where it's like, well, I'm not going anywhere, so I'm going to come in and just delight and surprise you every day with what I'm going to provide to you. And we've had these conversations, we've set expectations and things like that. And if there's consistency in it, then I think you'll eventually win people.
And that's just it. It goes back to what we were talking about. The more you say, doesn't matter, I'm going to keep showing up available for this. I'm available for this. And oh, isn't it interesting that sometimes they show up this way and I feel this? I'm going to release that. It doesn't serve me. In fact, it gets in the way of my relationship by either A, taking it personal, letting it frustrate me, or whatever. What can I do to get to know them better? What can I do to understand them better? What can I do to get more clarity about what they want? Was there a previous time when something didn't go well that they're afraid of happening or repeating? And if I know that, can I create change? One more. Got time for one more quick one. Any personal, like relationships, family, kids, when you start to talk values, you're teaching values to the kids. Well, you know why we clean our room? Because it demonstrates respect for our things. It demonstrates respect for our house. You demonstrate respect for yourself because you know where everything is. And your room is clean and tidy and healthy. Okay? Not just because I said so. Okay? Now you might have to say the first one a few times until they start to get it. Because don't we love it when we demonstrate self-respect? So that then what you're teaching goes beyond the clean room and into the deeper of thing of this is what respect looks like and feels like and sounds like. Empathy. So look at this affirmation here. Read the first sentence for me.
I'm present, peaceful, clear, and confident.
Awesome. Doesn't that feel good to see those words? Think in those words. We are creating conditions right here. Would you read the second sentence?
We value trust, respect, clarity, and compassion.
Doesn't it feel good to say those words? Are those values? Yes. Would you read the third sentence?
We are fair, consistent, competent, and firm.
Doesn't it feel good when you know that you've been consistent, fair, and competent and firm? Absolutely. Read the next one for me.
I know what to say and how to say it.
Yes. And look, if you don't know what to say and how to say it, get some help. Figure it out. Practice it. Write it down. Look yourself in the mirror. But look for the most positive, affirming, value-based way to describe your position and what you want. Okay? Read the fourth one.
I respect him and allow him to have and own his feelings and reactions.
Yes. That's important. People don't have to do our bidding, y'all. They don't have to for us. They don't have to answer hands. They're allowed to have their own path. Let people have their own stuff. Let them own and take 100% responsibility for their thoughts, their feelings, their actions, and their words. Last sentence. Would you read that one?
We've demonstrated integrity in every step of our process.
Yes. And the way you demonstrate integrity in every step is by learning what integrity looks like, feels like, sounds like, and demonstrating that. And that even when you're in this kind of situation, your thoughts, feelings, words, and actions are consistent with these affirmations, you're creating conditions for successful communication. Use this when you're praising people. Use values when you're praising people. Who wants to read that one? Would you read that? Just read the whole thing.
Thank you for a great performance. Your timeliness and accuracy in your work on the project really demonstrates respect for your process and customers. Most importantly, it's a reflection of your own values and commitment to doing your best. Keep up the great work.
How does that sound? It's full of values there. The person not only goes instead of, oh, good job, okay? No, good job. What you did really demonstrates respect. Value word, okay? Timeliness, accuracy, commitment, okay? And by people keep hearing those words, and by us using those words, values start to have meaning other than a poster up on the wall. Okay? We've all seen posters. They've got all these words. They don't mean half the time, right? Because we don't know what they look like and feel like, and nobody else cares. Well, like I said, you all are at the point of the spear. I am counting on you to care. I am counting on you to be values-based and to spread this seed and get people to show up available by you demonstrating your capacity and ability to show up available. One last quick story. One of my executive coaching clients was in the same position I was as an ROTC cadet. He was doing a performance review. There was some political, there was some personal relationship things going on, and the employee was counting on getting a 4 and the respective bonus that went along with that. Guess what? His performance didn't match. And my client was in a position of, do I give him the 4 anyway? Nobody's going to really care. It's not really going to matter. It's just a same old performance review. And there's plenty of money at the corporate level to go around. All those things. But he goes, nope. Because I value respect for myself as a leader, for the other person, it would be disrespectful to give them a 4 if they didn't deserve a 4. Okay? I'm going to give the person a 3. And when that news got up to my client's boss, my boss picked up the phone and said to him, good job. This is why you're a leader. And this is what I'm counting on you to do. So you see how that works? It works. It works. So, in summary, see opportunities with all of your communications. Every communication is an opportunity. The one you have when you go home tonight is an opportunity. Cultivate a culture of values. Learn about values. Pick your favorite values. Practice speaking the language of values and what they mean to you. Start to show up available. Use that term. Write it on your mirror at home. Show up available. When you leave here, you go to your next meeting. Whatever you're going to do after today, am I showing up available for this? What do I want, and am I showing up available for it? If not, how can I show up more available? What new thought? What new energy? What words can I say that will demonstrate me being available? Number 4, ensure that there's a consistent approach, not just to performance reviews, but are we consistent? Are you consistent in who you are? Are you consistent in your boundaries and your values and how you show up? Number 5, speak to the person's other goals. What do you want in this relationship? If this was going to be the perfect relationship and the best marriage or the best family, what does that look like? Imagine asking a 9-year-old, if you could create the perfect family, what would that look like to you? What would it feel like? What would it sound like? Right? If nothing else, you get insight, information. Oh, that's so interesting. Wow, well, tell me more about that. Okay? And the more information you have, the more clarity you can have on who you are and whether things are a fit for you. And then finally, empathy and respect. First for yourself. Because if I don't have it for myself, I can't show up available for it with you. I've got to bring it to the table. And if I expect you to bring it to the table for me, I'm going to always be sorely disappointed. Okay? Because that's not your job. Practice. Just 1 degree of shift, just 1 day of practicing this is going to move you along your own path and closer to what you want. And finally, who you are in any given situation is always greater than what's happening. So who you are, whether you're talking to a boss, a friend, a coworker, your significant other, a child, a pet, who you are is always greater than what's happening. And by tapping into that, you always have a firm foundation of authenticity, integrity, and you are peaceful, clear, and confident in who you are and what you want. And that creates conditions to attract the results that you really want to have, no matter what it is that you're doing. I've totally had a lot of fun here with you all today. I hope I have the opportunity to come back again and talk on another subject. There's flyers on the table for each one of you. I would love to help any of you personally or any of your organizations. I will offer a free 30-minute lunch and learn to your employees if you'd like me to come and talk on a topic of whatever is important to you. I'm available for that. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity.